Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renzi, your host of the Raiders Reporting. Coming up on today's show, the top college football players that I'm going to be watching this weekend. My weekend's Friday and Saturday for the Silver and Black. A lot of championship games, and I don't know about you. I like to see which players show up when the lights are at its brightest. And I had a lot of conversations over the past week with some loyal Raiders fans. Shout out to my guy David Zahn. Shout out to Bayou Raider. And I was asking, what's new content that you guys want to see? I also see on Instagram, Twitter that you guys want more draft content. So you know what? I'm a man of the people, and I mean it when I say this. If you want to see more Raiders draft content, hit that like button on today's show because it's December. In my mind, I don't typically start a lot of my draft process until a little bit closer to March, a little bit closer to April, usually after the season. But the Raiders are 2-10. This channel is about y'all, and if the media members aren't going to give you what you want during press conferences, well, maybe I can do my best to do my job here. So today we are going to be looking at a lot of the players that I think are going to be highlighted in a lot of these conference championship games this weekend. Currently, the Raiders got 10 picks in total. We got to be able to hit on our picks. I don't know if we missed on our picks last year or I guess this year or just Pete Carroll and his coaching staff just suck. But the number 4 overall pick as it stands right now, and I really wanted to do this show based on draft needs. Here's the thing. I think we need just about everything on the offensive and defensive side of the football. So for certain players in certain games, I'm going to highlight them just a little bit more. Let's first go to the very first game. It's going to be on Friday, and it's the Sun Belt Championship. And guess what? My wife, she's out of town all weekend, and I'm going to get to watch every single one of these college football games. You got Troy up against JMU. This one's going to be on Friday, December 5th in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Sorry, I'm from PA, so I saw Harris. I was like, oh, shit, that's interesting. Looks like JMU's going to blow them out, and here's my honest take. I honestly don't think that there's any players that are NFL caliber, so if you watch this game, I want you to enjoy it. I want you to sit back and try to appreciate it. But the objective of this show is to at least give you at least one guy to watch. And the player that I'm going to sit up here and say that you should at least figure out and at least try to appreciate is JMU's linebacker. And, this is somebody who's 6 foot, 234-pound, defensive player of the year for James Madison, and 91 tackles, 3 sacks in general. JMU's defense did rank top 10 nationally. Again, to me, you're probably just going to end up seeing somebody along the lines of a special teams player. And I only say that because, again, do I think that somebody's going to get drafted from JMU? No, I really, truly don't. But if you need someone to watch that young man right there. Let's go to the AAC Championship, probably the game that Jeremy cares about the most. He's a North Texas guy. I have, low-key started to root for North Texas a little bit, being down here in the DFW area. And here are the 3 players that I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be looking at the quarterback and edge rusher from Tulane, Jake Ratzlaff, and then Mo Westlamore. Drew Mestamaker is not draft eligible, but I promise you this, I'll be real, I don't think either of these Tulane players probably end up getting drafted in this year's class unless Tulane goes on a legendary run, then sure, maybe end up seeing it. But Drew Mestamaker, not draft eligible, but is somebody that I do think that people should sit back and go, man, that kid's pretty damn good because he didn't play quarterback in high school. He's getting his opportunity, and if you like points, this might be the most entertaining game. Not going to be a lot of defense. The over-under in this one is 66.5. But again, the Raiders are 2-10. I'm probably going to be looking more forward to a lot of these college games on Friday and Saturday than I'm going to be looking forward to the actual Raiders game on Sunday, which we will be live for. And if you don't already know, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I don't want you to miss any Raiders content at all. And if you want more Raiders draft content, I am trying to figure out a way to not literally lose my mind with this Raiders season. So if you guys want more draft content, this is literally the first draft video I would say that I'm doing. So the more comments, the more likes, the more subs that we get on today's show, that's going to tell me, all right, Mitch, let's start looking at Raiders draft targets at QB. Let's start looking at Raiders draft targets at wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive end, and any position. If you want more draft content, make sure you're subscribed. Now, I know the Sun Belt Championship, boring. The AAC Championship, probably boring in terms of actual NFL talent. This is where the real meat and potatoes of today's show is going to get into, and it's the Big 12 Championship. Hell, Jeremy kind of got mad at me. I was like, Jeremy, I don't even think that we should talk about these two games. And he's like, you got to talk about North Texas. So there you go. Now let's talk about the games that I think actually matter for Raider Nation. BYU up against Texas Tech. This is going to be, I think, a really much more difficult game than people realize, and I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. You got the Red Raiders up against the Cougars, and I don't know. I'm a sucker for a good Cougar. I don't know if y'all know that. My top Texas Tech players, though, that I'm going to be watching, you got David Bailey, Romello Height, Jacob Rodriguez, Skylar Gill Howard, Lee Hunter. The first person I want to really highlight here, though, is Jacob Rodriguez at linebacker. They use this dude so many different ways. They have literally certain packages for him on offense and defense, and maybe I'm a little bit of a sucker for somebody along the lines like J.J. Pegues for that whole route. For Lee Hunter as well, this is a big boy. Now, depending on who you talk to in certain NFL circles, I think some people are really high on Lee Hunter. I think other people are a little bit lower. But at 6'4", 325 pounds, if you want the Raiders to build in the trenches, and this is somebody who I think honestly could be drafted on day 2, I think it's somebody that could be drafted on day 3, very up in the air, but that's definitely going to be somebody that I got my eyes on. From the BYU perspective, I just laid out a whole bunch of different players, even so much, their place kicker and Will Fernan. But Chase Roberts, Keanu, I would say are the top 2 players on this team that have NFL talent that are going to be draft eligible in 2026. If you want to look at the guys in the trenches, though, their offensive guard, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. I'm going to call him Waylon Lapp, because that sounds like that's how we're going to. Lapau? Yeah, Lapau. I think I can help you with that Pan situation there. You know what? Maybe I should just watch Step Brothers after this. Now, I got more players coming up here in just a moment that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on. And if you want to get some lineups in for some college games this weekend, this is why I love Prize Picks. Again, my wife, out of town. I feel like it's always like the meme. She's going to be worried I'm going to be out getting beers with the boys. Oh, who's going to be over at the house? It's going to be me. It's going to be Chuck, and I'm going to be playing with my PP. What is that? Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app out there. And I love Prize Picks, and I think that you guys will too, because the hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right, that never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. You can also follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app like me. If you want to see the lineup that I have for Raiders Broncos this upcoming week, I'm just going to tell you like this. I'm rooting against Bo Nix, and I'm rooting against Geno Smith. I mean, that's what I root for anymore on a Sunday. I hope that Geno Smith makes himself look like an ass. That's why they pay you the big bucks. And Bo Nix, I think he stinks. So here's my $5 to pay $25 lineup. One of the reasons why I love Prize Picks is because you can mix and match whether you want to go flex play, whether you want to go a power play. And if you want to join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app out there, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Let's go to the SEC championship game, and I can't wait for this one. Honestly, these next 3 games here, Saturday, don't bother me on Saturday. Unless you were the MVP on our Thursday show. And I can't wait to watch the game with you. SEC Championship, Georgia at Alabama. I feel like it's always Georgia up against the Crimson Tide. Georgia is the favorite in this one. The over-under is 47.5. And realistically, there's so many players that you could watch in this game. And I love me some SEC talent. You got Ty Simpson to Caden Proctor. Those have been a lot of names that I've thrown up here a few times. You got Jaden Roberts from the offensive guard perspective. But let's look at Ty Simpson, the quarterback of the Crimson Tide. 6'2", 208 pounds, 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I've seen some good. I've seen some bad. Last week when I was in the hospital, I watched that game up against Auburn. Wasn't the best Ty Simpson. But to me, the top 2 quarterbacks in this year's class, Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore. Then I'm like, is it Ty Simpson? Is it Sellers? If he goes out there and he shows up and he balls out, I might put him as my QB number 3. If he shits the bed, though, he might have to fall a little bit. Let's go to another player in Caden Proctor, and he's a monster. And I mean a monster of a human being at 6'7", 366 pounds. Now, there's a part of me where I get the fact that the Raiders drafted Charles Grant at right tackle. Maybe Proctor could play on that right side. I know we already have Colton Miller, but I like the trenches. We need to build an offensive line. I'm going to look at a lot of offensive linemen and defensive linemen this weekend. What about the top players, though, on the defensive side of the football? LT Overton, their edge, he is a special talent. Also, somebody else who I really do like is Keon Sabb, their safety. But for Overton at 6'5", 278 pounds, going to be a first-round pick, at least at this early stage, based on some of our draft guys that I've talked to here at Chat Sports. But you got the Raiders, right? Like, you got to figure out a way to replace Malcolm Kuntz. Potentially, could you get Overton? You're not going to take him in round 1 because I am anticipating we're going to be at a definite top 5 pick. I'm going to say we're going to be at number 2. But then another player to really keep your eye on, Keon Sabb at the safety position. We need somebody that can cover the back end, no doubt about it. And I've been saying all offseason long, we need a free safety. We need a free safety. To me, I still want to be able to see how Sabb does up against a physical Georgia team. But the players that show out in an SEC championship game, you're damn right. Those are guys that I like to target. From the Georgia perspective, the top players to watch on the defensive side of the football, here they are right now. And DT, got to be able to replace Christian Wilkins. Linebacker, got to be able to replace Landon Roberts. Got to be able to replace Devin White. And the Dalian Everett at corner, we could use a corner because Eric Stokes, Kai Blue Kelly, you can have him for all that's worth. But C.J. Allen, 42 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. This is somebody that likes to fly all over the football field. And going up against the Alabama team, like, Bama has done a really shitty job, I would say, this season in terms of running the football. They've definitely been a little bit more of a pass team. I thought that they did a halfway decent job getting that ground game going against Auburn. But C.J. Allen, you need to be able to do multiple things if you're going to play the linebacker position in the NFL. From the offensive side of the field, we got offensive linemen to wide receivers, tight ends. Again, I'm just trying to outline a bunch of the names that I think that you guys should at least just keep a little bit closer of a tab on. I don't need to go into depth on any of these other players because to me, if you're watching Georgia, you're watching for that defense. They don't have as much talent on the offensive side of the football this season, in my opinion. But again, every player that you see, I believe, is going to end up getting drafted. Let's go to the ACC championship game, and you got Duke up against Virginia Tech, and not tons and tons of talent in this game from an NFL perspective in terms of guys that are going to be drafted in 2026. I will say this. Darian Mensah is an interesting quarterback prospect. I don't know how I feel about him yet. It's a little bit up in the air. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. But Chandler Rivers is the number 1 player on Duke that's going to get drafted. He's going to be a day 2 pick. I've seen people say that he could be as high as a round 2. That's a little bit too rich for my blood. I was talking to one of our guys, Tom Downey, best in the biz. Tom, right now, I would say he's probably a 3rd, 4th round pick. 5'10", 185 pound, though. Need to be able to add on the outside. Chandler Rivers is going to have some fun matchups in this game. From the Virginia perspective, the offensive tackle, wide receiver here shown on screen, probably going to be UDFAs in all honesty. Jamari Taylor's they're probably the only guy that ends up getting drafted, and he's going to be a day 3 guy. But I'm just trying to show y'all NFL talent, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of the objective here, because if you're going to sit down and watch the games, who are some players that you should have your eyes on? And I'm just hoping to give you some names here to pay attention to. From the Duke-Virginia perspective, Virginia is the favorites in this one. Total over-under is 57.5. I think that this is going to be a fun football game. I think all the games this weekend are going to be fun and they're going to be entertaining. And again, if you get time, get a Prize Picks lineup in. If you're sitting here going, Mitch, I don't care about Duke and Virginia. I don't really disagree with you. You get a Prize Picks lineup in, 5 to win like $25. I'm going to be the biggest Dookie out there. Hell, it took me a whole week to drop a Dookie. Let's go to the final game here on today's program. Again, if that's too much TMI for you, I'm sorry, I'm apologizing. We're getting ready to film Thursday Night Football, and that's just how it goes. Big Ten championship game. This is the number one game. This is the most important game. Hell, you can almost argue this is the national championship type of game. You got number 2 Indiana up against number 1 Ohio State. Both teams are undefeated. The Buckeyes, the defending national champs, they have the most talent in all of college football. I mean, I literally could have done this entire show about players to watch at Ohio State, but I'd make the argument Indiana's the more important team. Why? Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza is my number 1 quarterback in this year's class, and if the Raiders had the number 1 overall pick, if you had to take him, I would love to take Fernando Mendoza. He's 6'5", 225 pounds. He can spray the football all over the field, extremely accurate. He's a great leader, but is also his go-to guy, Elijah Surratt, I think is going to be a very talented receiver at the next level. And, sometimes I always wonder, if the Raiders were to draft Mendoza, could you get Surratt in round 2, try to replace, Jacoby Myers to be able to just replicate a little bit more of that chemistry that they had. Indiana, from a defensive side of the football, they have some players. I'm not overly charismatic about Indiana on defense, as I am obviously with them on the offensive side of the football. But D'Angelo Pons is a fun player, and I say that because he's tiny. And one of the guys that I really wish the Raiders could have figured out a way to bring back is Amik Robertson, right? And Robertson, you guys knew, was a guy that I liked a lot. D'Angelo Pons kind of reminds me of Amik, where you're like, yeah, I get it. He's 5'9", 170 pounds. You better not get into a fight with him because that guy's a scrapper. We need some nickelback help depending on what type of defense we run next season. Pons, though, got a tough test because, again, those receivers at Ohio State are as good as they come, man. As good as they come. In terms of the top players to watch for the Buckeyes on the defensive side of the football, there's all sorts of talent here. You got Caleb Downs, going to be, I think, a top 5 pick potentially, top 10. Sony Styles is incredible. Arvell Reese is an absolute monster. But Caleb Downs is the number 1 player on defense that I think Raider fans should watch. Why? Right now we're picking number 4 in the NFL draft. Caleb Downs could be somebody that literally gets taken at safety that high. If you're looking for these new age defensive players like a Kyle Hamilton where you can use them in a multitude of different ways, that's how I look at Caleb Downs. Like, coming into the year, people were saying he's the best defensive player in all of college football. Sony Styles, another super athletic player that can really help you do a multitude of different things. We need a lot of help at that linebacker position. And Styles really, I think, is a great east and west, north and south player. And then Arvell Reese. Arvell Reese is a unbelievable edge talent. And I used to always say, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to say it, and I hope Rob Leonard ends up coming back, but if you put Arvell Reese and you let him be an edge rusher over a linebacker and just let him get after the quarterback, that's got to be something to watch. Somebody who's not draft eligible, but you should absolutely positively watch him, Jeremiah Smith. He's the best wide receiver in college football. He might be the best player. He reminds me so much of Julio Jones. It's not funny. The biggest downside of Jeremiah Smith, he's related to Geno Smith. And, he's related to Geno. So that's one that I do not. I'm done with Geno. Jeremiah, I would take Jeremiah. But again, he's not draft eligible until the year 2027. More players on the offensive side of the football. Again, this was more about just finding names that are going to be draft eligible. But Chugs is like, dude, you got to put Jeremiah Smith in that list. Jeremiah Smith is on the list. I'm really going to be looking more at the offensive lineman for the Buckeyes because I just think at this point of this season, we need more help on the interior. So out of all those games, which game are you looking forward to the most? I personally, how about this? You're about to get into the YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, scrolling down, you made it this far in the video, you might as well go answer this question. My answer coming up after this YouTube ad break. The number 1 game I'm looking forward to, Indiana, Ohio State. Then game number 2 is the SEC championship game. If you're a Raider fan and you can block off a little bit of time on Saturday, those are the 2 games that you absolutely need to watch. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on. And make sure you pull up with me on Sunday when the Raiders take on the Broncos because we probably won't win on the field. But I do want to kick Trace Moustakis' ass in a Super Chat sub battle. So make sure you pull up here to the Raiders Report.